The Adventures of Robin Hood. Robin Hood was a legendary outlaw who lived in Sherwood Forest, Nottinghamshire, in the 12th or 13th century. He was known for his heroic acts of robbing from the rich and giving to the poor, and his band of merry men were loyal followers who joined him in his quest for justice. Robin Hood was born into a wealthy family, but he lost his inheritance when his father died and his evil uncle seized the family's lands and wealth. Robin was forced to flee to the forest, where he formed his band of outlaws and began his life of crime. However, Robin's crimes were not senseless acts of violence. He only robbed from corrupt officials and wealthy nobles who exploited the poor and oppressed the weak. Robin and his merry men would then distribute the stolen goods to the poor and needy, who welcomed them with open arms. The Sheriff of Nottingham, who was responsible for enforcing the law in the region, saw Robin Hood as a threat to his authority and made it his mission to capture him. He offered a reward for Robin's capture, dead or alive, and many bounty hunters tried to claim it, but Robin always managed to evade them. One day, Robin met a beautiful and courageous woman named Maid Marian, who shared his passion for justice and joined him in his quest for freedom. Together, they fought against the corrupt officials and became a symbol of hope for the oppressed. The Sheriff of Nottingham became increasingly desperate to capture Robin Hood and his band of outlaws. He sent his best men to search the forest, but Robin and his merry men always managed to outsmart them. The sheriff then decided to lay a trap for Robin, by holding an archery competition and inviting Robin to participate. Robin Hood saw this as an opportunity to show off his archery skills and to strike a blow against the sheriff. He disguised himself as a commoner and entered the competition, along with many other skilled archers. In the final round, Robin faced off against a mysterious and skilled archer, who turned out to be none other than the sheriff himself. The two archers fired their arrows, and Robin's arrow struck the bullseye, while the sheriff's arrow missed the mark. Realizing that he had been defeated, the sheriff ordered his men to capture Robin Hood, but Robin's merry men rushed to his aid and a fierce battle broke out. In the end, Robin and his band of outlaws emerged victorious, and the sheriff was forced to flee. With the sheriff defeated, Robin Hood and Maid Marian were finally able to live in peace, knowing that justice had been served. They continued to fight for the rights of the poor and oppressed, and their legend lived on for generations to come. The adventures of Robin Hood have been retold in countless books, movies, and TV shows, cementing his place as one of the greatest heroes of all time. His story continues to inspire people to stand up against injustice and fight for what is right. Robin Hood and his band of merry men continued to roam the forests of Sherwood, robbing from the rich to give to the poor. Their fame had spread far and wide, and many people in need sought their help. One day, a young woman named Marian arrived in Sherwood seeking Robin's assistance. She explained that her village was being oppressed by the cruel sheriff of Nottingham, who had been extorting exorbitant taxes from the people. Robin was quick to take up the cause and agreed to help Marian and her village. He and his merry men devised a plan to sneak into the sheriff's castle and steal back the tax money. With the help of Marian, who was familiar with the castle's layout, Robin and his men successfully infiltrated the castle and made off with the stolen money. But their triumph was short-lived, as the sheriff soon discovered that the infamous Robin Hood was behind the theft. He swore revenge and put a bounty on Robin's head. Despite the danger, Robin continued to fight against the sheriff's tyranny, taking from the rich and giving to the poor. The people of Nottingham rallied behind him, grateful for his bravery and kindness. As the years went by, Robin's legend only grew, and he became known as a hero throughout the land. His name was spoken in hushed tones by the oppressed and celebrated by the common folk. But one day, the sheriff of Nottingham finally caught up with Robin Hood. In a final battle, Robin fought valiantly, but in the end, he was struck down. Marian and the merry men mourned the loss of their leader, but they knew that Robin's legacy would live on. His bravery, kindness, and compassion would inspire generations to come, and his spirit would always live on in Sherwood Forest. Robin and his men spent the rest of the day and the night resting and preparing for the next day's events. They knew that they had a difficult task ahead of them, but they were determined to succeed. The next morning, Robin and his men set out for Nottingham Castle. They approached the castle walls quietly, trying to avoid detection. They managed to climb over the walls and sneak into the castle undetected. Once inside, they made their way to the dungeons, where the sheriff was holding the prisoners. Robin and his men quickly overpowered the guards and freed the prisoners. As they were making their way out of the castle, the sheriff and his soldiers caught up with them. A fierce battle ensued, but Robin and his men fought bravely and managed to defeat the sheriff and his soldiers. With the prisoners freed and the sheriff defeated, Robin and his men made their way back to Sherwood Forest. They were greeted as heroes by the people, who had heard of their brave deeds. Robin and his men continued to fight for the rights of the poor and oppressed, often taking from the rich to give to the poor. Their reputation as champions of the people grew, and they became known as the Merry Men. Over time, Robin and his men became more and more daring, often attacking convoys of wealthy merchants and nobles. They became more than just a band of outlaws, they were a symbol of hope for the oppressed. The King of England, who had been away fighting in the Crusades, eventually returned to England. When he heard of Robin Hood and his men, he was impressed by their bravery and loyalty to the people. He pardoned them for their crimes and invited Robin and his men to join him at court. Robin and his men accepted the king's offer and became his trusted advisors. They continued to fight for justice and the rights of the people, but now they did so from within the system. In the end, Robin Hood became a legendary figure in English folklore, a symbol of bravery, justice, and the fight against oppression. His adventures have been retold in countless books, plays, and movies, inspiring generations of people to stand up for what is right and just.